Welcome to the Infidelity Doctor channel. My name is Dr. Talal Salim, and this is the Ask Dr. Talal segment, your place to ask me anything you want to know about affair recovery and affair prevention. Please remember that this segment is not a substitute for the counseling that you're supposed to be getting. It's merely a place for you to get some basic question answered, as well as a place for you to hear about my clinical insights when it comes to affair recovery and affair prevention. So before we get to the question of the week, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you can get the most recent updates. The question of the week is as follows. The betrayed is showing emotional volatility. How do I handle this? It is important for the unfaithful partner to understand that the discovery of infidelity is going to produce intense emotions for the betrayed partner. Emotions related to fear, hurt, betrayal, anger, as well as embarrassment sometimes. So it is valid for the betrayed to have those feelings, and it's also valid for those feelings to be at that level of intensity. Oftentimes, the intensity of those emotions are not just related to the discovery of something people didn't think was going to happen to them, but also a lot of times it's related to the unfaithful partner's failure in meeting the betrayed expectations post the discovery. And a lot of times when I hear the unfaithful talk about this issue of emotional volatility, it usually happened during a time when the betrayed have a trigger, and the unfaithful failure in actually addressing this trigger in a way that actually will facilitate resolution. So it is important for the betrayed, when they have triggers, is to be able to try to process this trigger on their own. But if they are failing to do so, it is more than okay for them to recruit the help of the unfaithful partner who is actually responsible for causing this trigger in the first place. Now, why is it important for the unfaithful to help the betrayed processing these triggers? Well, one, it's important for the betrayed not to feel that they are alone and isolated in this trauma of discovery. But two, is going to allow the unfaithful an opportunity to continue to provide apologies and acknowledgement for the damage that they have caused, as well as reassurance for them to make significant efforts in changing the problematic behaviors that have led to their infidelity in the first place. So here's an opportunity also to do another point of distinctions. Sometimes the betrayed emotional volatility is not just a natural response for the discovery of trauma. Sometimes it's more of a tool that the betrayed is employed to punish the unfaithful. And from the betrayed perspective, if I am showing you the intensity of my feelings and this intensity is uncomfortable for you, maybe you'll think about this in the future if you are tempted by crossing the lines of fidelity again. Now, I'm okay with people experiencing the natural consequences of their behavior, but I'm a true believer in the fact that going above and beyond the natural consequences of infidelity and utilizing punishment as a tool for shaping behavior, I don't really see that as being an effective tool for shaping behavior. If it was, then then the prison system would be successful in reforming people's life. So as the betrayed, you need to understand the difference between allowing yourself to experience those feelings naturally versus you utilizing those feelings as a tool for punishing the unfaithful. This is not just for the unfaithful sake. This is for your sake, because you don't want the changes that are being made are made up out of fear. Because when people are making changes just simply because of consequences, those changes don't stick. You'll have partial compliance. So bringing this back full circle to, how do you handle this when you have the emotional volatility? It is important for the unfaithful and the betrayed to not only be engaged in couples counseling, but also for them to be engaged in individual counseling to help process some of those intense feelings. And I always recommend for the betrayed partner to engage in treatment modality that is designed for healing trauma. Brain spotting has been successful in helping the betrayed manage those feelings of trauma, as well as EMDR. But more importantly, common mistakes that the betrayed and the unfaithful find themselves in during those moments of emotional volatility. The betrayed has a trigger, and their default is to go back to revisit the story about the narrative of the affair. Tell me again why you did this. Share with me this detail again, and just rehashing the information that they already know. Now, why does the betrayed do this? Sometimes it's because they really never got the full narrative. And that's why they're asking these questions, because they're trying to make sense of what happened and why it happened. Other times, they already got the narrative. And the question they're asking is questions that they already have answers for. In those situations, this is the betrayed way or only way that they can think of dealing with the trigger. They try to deal with the trigger by revisiting the past. The problem here is that nothing good is going to come out of it, right? Because the questions that the betrayed is asking are things that they already know the answer for, but also it doesn't really help them get what they need in that moment. And oftentimes what they're needing in that moment is reassurance, as well as reaffirming the acknowledgement of the damage that was caused. So if I was the unfaithful partner, one thing that I need to say in those moments of emotional volatility is to really apologize again for the betrayed, for the damage that I have caused, and provide them with the assurance of why I'm not going to do this again, because of all this hard work that I'm doing on myself, on the relationship, that address the factors that led to the infidelity. But also asking them, what do you need from me in this moment of time? What do you need from me in the present? Because if the betrayed way of dealing with the trigger is related to the past, the unfaithful is always going to fail, right? Because the unfaithful did act poorly in the past by crossing those lines of fidelity. So it is important for the unfaithful to bring this back to the present and asking the betrayed, what can I do right now? I can't undo the past, but what can I do in the present time to help allow you to process this trigger successfully? So hopefully that answered the question of the week. Feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below about the answer that you heard, as well as your suggestions for questions that you'd like to see me tackle in future videos. Until then, be well, be safe, and embrace the possibility for a brighter future. Take care.